The doctor walks into the room and says that your mother needs a heart transplant and will only last 10 more days without one. Due to the insufficient amount of registered organ donors in the United States, your mother's odds at receiving this life-saving transplant that she so desperately needs are not very good. The United States is in an organ donation shortage, and non-donors should become registered donors in order to save more lives. For all of us, we have the choice to be or not to be an organ donor. Now this choice may seem like it's a really small choice that doesn't have much majority to it, but it's a pretty major choice that can mean life and death for certain individuals. According to Donate Life's 2014 website, they share a story of a young girl whose life was tragically cut short while she was waiting for an organ transplant. This young girl was named Alexa Kirsching, and when she was just 7 years old, she was diagnosed with lung disease. And at the young age of 12 years old, she was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension. Now this diagnosis put her name on the organ transplant list. And while on this list, she remained at her home, at the hospital, and on oxygen 24 hours a day. Now, 7 months went by and they received no call. After those 7 months went by, Alexa couldn't take it anymore, and she finally passed away in July of 2004 because there was not enough organ donors to get her an organ for transplant. This heartbreaking story goes to show that our country is lacking organ donors. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, on their online website in 2017, there are currently more than 130 million people that are registered organ donors. Even though this number may seem like a lot, it's really not. It's only 54% of the U.S. population that's registered organ donors. Now, on the organ transplant list, there's 116,000 people that are waiting for a transplant. Now last year, there were only 33,611 transplants that were able to occur. This means that only 29% of the people on that list are lucky enough to receive that life-saving transplant that they need. Each day, lives are affected by organ donors and a lack of them. There's an average of around 80 people per day that receive some type of transplant, but sadly, there's an average of 20 people that die every day just waiting for a transplant that's unable to occur due to an insufficient amount of donated organs. According to Life Science, in their 2015 article, every 10 minutes, a new person's name is added to the list. The people that are on this list may wait anywhere from a couple days all the way to a couple years to receive the transplant that they need. That is, if they are lucky enough to even receive a transplant. Now, our country faces a second problem. With a steady amount of organ donors, the amount of people seeking donated organs continues to rise. And according to the Washington Post, in their 2014 article, the amount of living and non-living donors has stayed right around the same number for the past 10 years. And while the amount of donors has stayed the same, the amount of people seeking a transplant has gone up substantially. In the past 10 years, there have been more than 40,000 people that have been added to this list. This information goes to show that there is an increase in the amount of people seeking a transplant. Not only is there an increase in transplants, but there's a lot more money that is being spent by the government to pay for treatment. This treatment occurs because the waiting list transplants, there's such a long list that they seek other alternatives. And in 2011, there were $34 billion of taxpayer money that was spent by Medicare on renal dialysis. This money would not have to be spent if there were a lot more organ donors. In conclusion, The United States is in an organ donation shortage, and non-donors should become registered donors in order to save more lives. Now, the U.S. is facing two major problems. The first is that we need more organ donors, and the second is that our transplant lists, they're growing every day. This country needs more organ donors, and I hope that by listening to my speech, you have learned a little bit about the problems that our country is facing with organ donation. Thank you.